And we are recording officially on Zoom to eventually be transferred to Movie Maker, and then eventually from there to YouTube. So we are tubing again today. And for those who are tubing in the Midwest, you've got to have on your gotchkis because it's getting chilly out there. It was about 60 degrees when I dropped in off at work, and you can feel the change as it is starting to emerge. Some of the trees are getting really cool, and that brings you to that idea of the constant transition going on here, when in actual fact we are living in truth in a place where nothing ever changes. Because once you have established perfection, nothing can disrupt that. So it's walking in two different worlds at one time. So Barrett and Charlie, how are you guys this morning?
Doing good, doing good.
Doing very well, thank you, Chris.
Yeah. What you were saying, Chris, reminds me of the line, to be in this world but not of it. It's, again, not necessarily easy to accomplish this, but this is what our practice of forgiveness is leading us to. That as we keep releasing layer upon layer of our attachment and our belief that this world is our true home, as we keep releasing that, we step more and more into our true home, which is that Christ, which is that immortal state of being. So, yeah, it's kind of shocking because we're so used to this world being our reality that to consider that it really is not can be a bit startling, especially to our normal way of thinking. But as we keep shifting into this, we get more and more comfortable with that idea. And we keep clearing out our resistance to it, and that helps us to step into it more and more. So as we're stepping into fall here, and I'm over here in Germany, it's also cooling off a bit, although today's a pretty nice sunny day. So it has that sense of fall in the air, and apples are on the trees. So it's a really nice time.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got interrupted. My listening got interrupted there by the phone, so I'm going to pass right back to Chris and let this. Actually, what you'd started to say, the reminder for me, is I was just thinking how grateful I am that you started to speak about that. This recognition. Yeah, seriously, this recognition that it's really all about finding out. It's really about returning to the truth. Waking up, and what a glorious journey this is. When we are in that realization of that freedom. Not tethered to this world in any way.
Yes, when we're in a state of cooperation instead of resistance, which is, we spend 99.9% of our day in resistance to everything we are experiencing. And, that brings up some ideas from chapter 27, the healing of the dream. And it starts off with the idea of the crucifixion. The wish to be unfairly treated is a compromise attempt that would combine attack and innocence. Who can combine the wholly inconceivable and make a unity of what can never join? Walk you the gentle way, and you will fear no evil and no shadows in the night. And I've noticed that in my own life, as I have been on this journey of awakening. And I have entered more and more into a state of non-resistance and looking at fear and dismissing it. I have very consistently had experiences that have been uplifting, validating, and most importantly, have been enfolded with a sense of being at peace. So I'm not, ducking every time somebody drops a book on the floor. I can remember there was a period in my life, and I'm sure most people can relate to that, when, if somebody would throw a firecracker in the room, you were hysterical for 3 days. And that that compounded fear that is so prevalent in this material world starts to diminish the minute you begin to recognize there is an alternative world, and you are in fact living in that alternative world, but imagining that you are in this world. So it's, kind of an astonishing shift of perception once you start to make those first early steps, and then things accelerate, they speed up, and a whole different way of life beckons you. And, when you recognize that that's what you really want, nothing is going to hold you back from attaining it.
Yeah. Elsewhere in the text, Jesus talks about this experience of this world as a hallucination. And it's a pretty clear, pretty clear label to give to this world to help us to see that we're experiencing something that's not real. That's what a hallucination is, right? It's a result of delusional thinking, and this is what has given rise to this world, is delusional thinking. We have believed that we could be apart from our Creator, and that one thought then gave birth to all these thoughts of separation, and seemed to split into this whole world of multiplicity. All the different experiences here, all the different people here, all the different ups and downs we have in this world. But they all come from that same one root. And as we undo that one root, we come back to the truth of what is real, which is that there was no separation. The pane of glass didn't really shatter into any broken pieces. It's still whole. It always will be. And the breaking of it was just a dream that never occurred. So it is really good news when we think about it, and when we come to have that experience. Although resistance to this is very common, and I'm going through another version of this resistance myself. I'm in the process of doing editing work on my next book. My third book is going to be called Forgiving All My Lives. And it's going to be talking about A Course in Miracles and my past life healing journey. And what am I finding? I'm finding tremendous resistance, as we were just talking about, right? I sit down to do some work on the book, and I just I want to get away from the computer. All of a sudden I have all these other things I could be doing. And so I'm just watching this resistance in myself. And it seems to be about this editing process. It seems to be about the process of getting this book out into the world. But that's just the surface level, right? The deeper level is, again, the fear over believing that I'm apart from God and somehow I'm guilty and I'm going to be punished, right? Which, of course, none of that's true, but in some way that's showing up in this specific form in my life. And so I just practice the forgiveness on this, right? I come to see that the book is not the source of my upset. And the writing process is not the source of the anxiety, that it's something deeper inside of me. And then I just do my best to release that. I ask for Holy Spirit's help in seeing it through eyes of love. And I just try my best to step back into that Christ self that we all are. And, it's a journey. So some days all of a sudden I feel like I'm in the flow again. And then another moment and I'm kind of back in the resistance. So this is the classroom that I'm in right now, and I'm glad to have these tools and these principles to use in order to move through this.
I'm really glad to have you both as teachers in this moment. I am, as I touched on a little bit before we went live today, and I talked to Barrett about a bit the other day. I'm recognizing. Until we started using the word this morning, resistance, I didn't really catch on to that word. But what I'm seeing right now for me is just this recognition of being open and being in tune and being in touch and letting go, and the joy in that, not holding on to something. I'm taking a journey, as I just mentioned, a physical journey here, right, to another part of the country here in a few days, and I have people say, "Why are you going?" I don't know why I'm going. I'm being guided to go. I am totally open to that. I'm very excited because of that. And the excitement is a joyous excitement. It's like I'm really looking forward to discovering the purpose of this journey, to see why this is taking place. And so many, was telling somebody, and maybe it was you, Barrett, yesterday, but just all the little things that have lined up to that this is taking place. I really had very little to do with it except to accept an invitation that somebody gave me. She looked me in the eyes and said, "You must go there." And I said, "Oh yes, I do. I do have to go there." After that acceptance, everything just started falling into place. The flight fell into place. The place to stay fell into place. The entire journey lined up. You know, as Chris was telling me this morning, be sure you go see this particular place while you're there. And you know, this whole event is shaping up that way. You know, and it's all being done, I think, again, getting back to without this resistance. You know, with a lack of resistance, it's like totally open to this happening, totally opening to whatever it's going to be, and planning nothing really, you know, except to get on the plane, you know, and get there and see what takes place. And without the resistance, it's just so freeing. It's elevating. It's, you know, it's I can recognize the mystical in it, you know, and it's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful right now. So yeah, I feel so really blessed, and I think I'm going to mostly just sit and listen to you guys, because no, I'm getting guidance from both of you. So thank you so much.
And you know, the thing about spirit, the thing about being in flow with that presence is its serendipitous nature, which you are right now being, you know, a witness to, because we all have these preconceived ideas of, I'm a savior of the world and I'm going to go out and do it this way, and the ego is, you know, has got you in a chokehold, telling you how it has to happen. And the reality is, there are events that are going to occur. There are variations on plans being made. There are inspirational insights that you can't even conceive of that, you know, are on the horizon. And this is what makes the journey so utterly enjoyable, is that we leave that tendency to make plans and to try and create, you know, a roadmap of where we're going and how we're going to get there. And once you get to that place of living in the state of free fall, you just kind of, you know, you're swinging from cloud to cloud and enjoying the journey. And I think that that's what is the greatest offering that the Course presents to us, is that our lives can become very serendipitous. We can have, you know, epiphanies happen in the midst of the most bizarre circumstances, and we can have enlightenment crash through in the darkest corner of the room. So the beauty of working with the Course is that the consistency of the way things pop up in life becomes delightful, and you get beyond that desire to try and control things. And of course, that's really the whole principle behind it. The Course is to stop the control, because that's what the ego is fanatical about. It has to be in control at all times.
Yeah. Yeah. I just had this image of the ego sitting in front of a laptop, and it's just holding its finger down on the control button.
And that's a pretty accurate image.
So I felt called to look up this quote about hallucination in the Course, because actually it's in there a whole lot more than I thought. It's actually 11 different times, but I always think of one in particular. It's in chapter 20, and this paragraph says, judgment is but a toy, a whim, the senseless means to play the idle game of death in your imagination. But vision sets all things right, bringing them gently within the kindly sway of heaven's laws. What if you recognize this world is an hallucination? What if you really understood you made it up? What if you realized that those who seem to walk about in it, to sin and die, attack and murder and destroy themselves, are wholly unreal? Could you have faith in what you see if you accepted this? And would you see it? So it's pretty powerful stuff. He's really just helping us pop the bubble on this very pervasive belief we have that this world is actually true. This world is what it seems to be. You know, there's all these different movies. What, you know, one of my favorites on this theme is the Matrix, right? It was one of the first blockbuster movies that really, you know, brought this idea forward. What if everything that you're perceiving, what if this whole life that you've been living is actually just illusory? What if it's not true at all? And almost everyone freaks out to a certain amount when they hear this idea. But it really holds the key to this amazing amount of peace and freedom. And so the more that we start to absorb it and really start to be with it, it really does offer us this sense of freedom and happiness and joy and love that is the Course's goal.
Yeah, it's, I guess I'm not going to just listen. So it just took me back to this kind of two different things. One that, you know, this concept of the ego, this separate entity from heaven, you know, that we've created, and this concept that Chris first touched on, being unfairly treated, you know. Excuse me while I'm sorry, excuse me just a minute. You guys go right ahead. I have to.
Call from Walgreens.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Charlie is off on an adventure there, so I'm sure that that serendipitous thing I was talking about has implemented itself, and within the midst of all of that, you know, the thing that came up in my mind's eye as you were talking about hallucinations is a similar word but a slightly different phenomenon, and that is a mirage. And I love that word because when I was a kid growing up, there were great stretches of road that my grandparents would, you know, take me down. And then later, traveling in California and throughout the Southwest and the deserts, you hit this place where the road stretches out in front of you, and you know, a mile and a half ahead of you, there is an absolute assurance that you're going to hit a lake. There is this mirage of water crossing the road. And we would see it, you know, I'd see it all the time. And you keep driving and driving and driving, and you never hit the water. And that really is the nature of this material world. You're driving, you're expecting it, you're believing that it's going to happen, but the truth is you never get your thirst quenched. You know, the water never actually manifests. And so when we are out here in this material environment mucking around, we have to be willing to redirect our thinking so that we're not chasing the mirage. We're not looking for, you know, a source of water in a hot and sticky desert. And so then it becomes an adventure, you know, chasing the water becomes an adventure rather than a desire or a need. And I think that really is a big part of the shift we go through as we go deeply into A Course in Miracles, is that we arrive at a place where the recognition of the unreality that we're surrounded by gives us permission to have fun with the experience that we are going through.
Yeah. Well, is the Mirage of Charlie back?
Yes. Yes, the Mirage is back. Yeah, but I'm just feeling that, Chris, that joy so much right now, in this freedom. I loved your little picture there for us, hopping from cloud to cloud, in this vibe I'm in right now, because it's really just what it's like. It's so clear when I choose to hop off the cloud for a moment, it's so clear because something unsettling or something, that I choose to put my focus on in the illusion is so disruptive. The joy just is instantly just kind of set aside, and I'm making that choice to set it aside by focusing on something that's illusory, and so, like you're touching on today, Chris, the joy of working with this course and studying this course and starting to live this course is just that, there's this quick realization that you've done that to yourself, that the unfairly treated part in your first quote today is just me doing it to myself. There's no other player involved, I'm unfairly treated only by, this belief in separation, this belief in that something different, something outside of me is impacting me some way. And that's just not the case. It's not true, right?
Yeah. Well, I love that idea. And I think that when we realize that, we haven't really had these situations that we think we've had, it really changes our whole experience. And a lot of people, when they first hear this idea that the world is not what it seems, again, there's a lot of fear, or like, well, what's going to happen if I don't really believe in this world? Maybe I'm going to, just be mean or uncaring or kind, or cruel to people. But actually the opposite happens. We actually get more kind, more gentle, more loving. We step into our true self because we don't have to project our fear out onto the world. We don't have to blame other people for problems. We don't even have to take outright attacks personally. As the Course says, we start to see everything as either an expression of love or a call for love. And when we see these calls for love, all we do is we respond with love. And as Chris was alluding to at the beginning, the world it sometimes seems like it's getting crazier and crazier. But we don't need to get wrapped up in it. We don't actually need to believe that the world's chaos is our chaos. And again, this is again a kind of a big step to take, a step to realize that our true home is not here. And the experiences we have here are only reflections of the thoughts within the mind. And they only have as much truth or power as we choose to give them. And as we are recalling this power that we've given to the forms in our life, all of a sudden we just have more love to share because it's less blocked by the shadows of what unfolds here. We're not buying into the hallucinations as much. We're starting to realize that we've been on a trip, within our mind, and we want to start to kind of shake it off and come back to what's actually true, but which is actually beyond perception. Because the experience of divine love is not something that is in this world of time and space. It's beyond it completely, but it is something that we can come to experience and to know. And every time we release some old grievance, some old issue, we're just stepping that much more into that divine awareness. And that's what this whole practice is about. So yeah, I like that swinging from cloud to cloud idea too.
Well, it says, further down in the Course here, it says, your function is to show your brother sin can have no cause. How futile must it be to see yourself a picture of the proof that what your function is can never be. And, you know, that really is the bottom line. Our function is to be the extension or the actual manifestation of God.
Mm.
And what loftier goal could you possibly have? But we get caught up with the ego's idea of, oh, I want to be, you know, a fireman and rescue people from flaming buildings. Well, that's, you know, that's a good thing. That's a nice aspiration. But what if you just didn't imagine all those burning buildings with all those people in it? What if you just stopped this generation of imagery and of ideas and of thoughts that are so counter to the clarity and the harmony and the unity that we find in that space where there is no thought? Because once you've entered into that space where there is no thought, there is love. And that is the foundation for existence. So, you know, it really is a matter of making choices. And
Yeah.
once we begin to make rational choices, the world around us begins to reflect that back to us.
Yeah, I love that, Chris. It's exactly what I was thinking about as you were saying that. You know, it's always the choice, isn't it? You know, and as Jesus so clearly tells us throughout the entire Course in Miracles, you know, it's about that. You know, choose once again. And I think that's the beauty of this, is you know, the beginning of this awakening for me anyway was to recognize there was a choice to make. You know, I didn't know there was a choice to make. I thought the ego ran the show. I didn't even identify with the ego, really, you know. But that's what was running the show. Charlie's little world was the center of the universe. And once I recognized that, you know, this being unfairly treated was something that I was creating, that I had a choice not to choose that, that was the beginning of this awakening. And then the practice for me now is to just constantly trying to be aware that I'm choosing to listen to one teacher or the other. There's only two teachers, you know, Holy Spirit or ego. And one is giving us that opportunity to hop from cloud to cloud. The other is giving us the opportunity to hop off the cloud and just do a deep descent, you know, into oblivion. And that's really what it is. It's an insane world that we can choose to be in.